What's up, everyone? Thomas here with ForReel, and it is time once again to do Fantasia. I'm excited because this is my third time covering Fantasia, and although I haven't had the pleasure of attending this festival in person just yet, I have enjoyed the privilege of covering this festival remotely here in the Pacific Northwest. But what's covering festivals without a few friends? It's always funner with friends. So I have a couple on the line here to talk with movies, talk about the selections at Fantasia. One of them is a ForReel team member in Vancouver. We have the super amazing Todd Pengelly on the line.
Hi there. Happy to be here.
And of course, frequent flyer on ForReel content. We have Taylor Baker in Seattle from Drinking the Movies.
I'm excited to talk with movies about friends.
Yeah, that I committed to it. You told me to, and I did it.
I'm so proud. And now we have joy. You're welcome.
And now we have joy. This is true. Before we jump into Fantasia talk, there is one really quick shout out I want to give. I want to congratulate ContraZoom for hitting the big 200 on their podcast. So they just published their 200th episode, and it's exciting to reach 200. I think I got to 2 and was like, this is a lot of work. So that's really huge. And I know they talked a little bit about the progression of their podcast and how they got to where they are. And also, if you listen, I have a little voicemail on there as well. The episode is themed after movies that made us. And so I got to give a little snippet of which movie I chose to talk about that made me and that made me the movie watcher that I am. And spoiler alert, it is not Lord of the Rings. I know a lot of people out there probably thinking, a lot of my friends probably think I would talk about Lord of the Rings, but get out.
Yeah, I was thinking, like, what is the first movie that Peter Jackson made? Because that's the only thing more influential on Thomas is Peter's success.
Yes, and we can. I mean, I could do a whole podcast on that, but you might be both surprised and a little underwhelmed by what I ended up choosing. But it was a very significant movie. So if you want to know which movie that is, listen to ContraZoom's 200th episode, which is now published where you listen to podcasts. So, all right, wanted to get that out of the way, and now we get to talk about Fantasia, which is happening from July 14th to August 3rd. Nice to have a lot of time to cover a festival. Fantasia has always traditionally been a longer one, and so just more time to watch movies, which I'm excited about. And we're going to talk about some festival favorites and of course movies that we're most excited about. But I don't know, Baker, we'll start with you. What is your history with Fantasia? How have you felt about covering the festival in the past? And just give us a little history that you've had.
I think my history is the same as yours. I think we've been covering it the same amount of years. I think we started the same summer with festival attendance. As such, it's a very special festival in my heart because it is the first one. Mm-hmm. And it's definitely more of a genre festival. And what that means is that I don't have to be quite so serious, and I don't have to be quite as exhausted with my time as I do at these other festivals because it is longer. It means that I'll laugh a little bit more, I'll roll my eyes a little bit more, and I'll find things that I otherwise would have never seen, for sure. And it also means special filmmakers coming onto my radar. I think of things like One Cut of the Dead, which I never would have seen if it wasn't for Fantasia. So yeah, it's got a very warm place in my heart, and it's kind of it's the only festival that doesn't feel stressful on my calendar. That's what it means to me. How about you?
Oh, I totally agree. And I especially agree with the fact that Fantasia is a really great hub for movies that I would not have seen otherwise. It's definitely your fault that I'm doing this film festival thing. I'm pretty sure I remember the conversation where you're like, you just need to like apply. And I'm like,
that's exactly what I would have said.
Yes. And so I
Single
did.
sentence, do objective.
Yes.
Okay.
So I did, and ever since then, it's just been a whirlwind of film festival coverage, and is now a very massive part of what ForReel is all about. So, same as you, Fantasia holds a very special place in my heart for that reason. And one of these days, we'll get there in person. But on the subject of the first film festival, attending Fantasia for the first time, this is actually Todd's first time covering Fantasia. Todd, how do you feel about that?
I'm really excited. It was funny because you read through like the program, and it'll be like, yeah, from this director who previously had, X at Fantasia, and there's just so many titles that I love that played at Fantasia in years prior that I had no idea played at Fantasia. And so it's just really exciting to kind of like do it in the moment and get on board like the train of movies I know that if I would eventually have seen, I would love. And I get to see them now when they're premiering, which is very exciting. I'm super pumped.
Awesome.
Yeah, for sure. That's great. I'm excited to have you on board with covering the festival this year. And I think that there's going to be some really, really cool films, really good things to cover. So I wanted to start with some festival favorites. As I was looking through the lineup, I was like, oh, I recognize these films. First
up is Cha-Cha Real Smooth.
I wish.
Oh, wait. Someone didn't change my teleprompter. I've just been sticking with what we've been doing since Sundance. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so I'm like viciously backspacing because mine still says Flee.
That's true. Yes, movies that Thomas will not shut up about. Yeah, and I will avoid Flea and Cha-Cha Real Smooth conversation.
Oh my gosh, Bodied? We're talking about Bodied?
Bodied. Oh, dude, that's the one I haven't talked about in a long time. I'm due for a rewatch on that. Bodied 3 times in a row? What? I'm down for that. So there's a few films that we saw, at least me and Taylor saw at other festivals, that we wanted to highlight really quick as things worth checking out if you are attending the festival. And let's actually start. Where do you want to start, Taylor? I didn't choose which one to start with.
I think the best one to start with is the one that has the broadest appeal and will be the most joyous for every single person that thinks Fantasia and gets stoked. And that's probably Deadstream.
Deadstream. I love talking about this movie. We've covered it a couple times on previous videos, and it is a film that's directed by Vanessa Winter and Joseph Winter. A POV kind of film about a disgraced online personality who tries to regain his popularity and following by staying overnight in a haunted house and live streaming it. It is similar in a lot of ways to the movie that just went to streaming. Why am I spacing on the name? What's the other one?
I don't know. Why are you spacing on the name?
If you're gonna
Dash
say
Cam. That's what I was saying. Yes.
Oh, Rob Savage's Dash Cam.
Yeah. Yes, it's similar in many ways to Rob Savage Dash Cam, but I think it actually it'll appeal to a lot more people than Dash Cam did. So
I don't know about that. I think just not enough people saw Dash Cam.
Is the protagonist of Deadstream less insufferable than the protagonist of Dash Cam?
Barely.
I think he's redeemable. He's redeemable. I think he's redeemable, and I think that's what's going to make this a lot more appealing to many people.
Yes, he's a lot more identifiable. But if you ever wanted to hate your main character, I mean, Dash Cam is fantastic.
Yeah, that's
Annie Hardy does such a good job.
Absolutely, but Deadstream is just like I said, similar in many ways. I mean, it's the whole thing is like a live stream. You have the comments scrolling on the side for most of the movie. It's definitely a strong personality that's kind of helming the project. And I had a lot of fun with it. In fact, I remember when we talked about it, where did it debut?
South by Southwest,
I think so, right? When it debuted, I remember we did the the curtain raiser for that festival, and you had it on your list and I didn't. I was like, I don't know, there's an image of someone sticking their finger up his nose. That doesn't
and
seem...
I was like, absurdism at a film festival in March, sign me up.
So I did end up watching it, and I ended up really, really enjoying it. But I also enjoyed Dashcam. So yeah, I guess, take that for what it's worth. But Baker, what is your take on Deadstream?
On Deadstream, I think it's a really competently made and really well edited, especially like emotionally, film. I think this is their first project as co-directors, and the timing of the beats, the cleverness with I need to leave and go get something from a different room, and then all the lights turning off. Just the way that they subtly play their plot threads, even though everyone knows what's happening, they still commit to the foibles of the genre in a really charming way that I think is really rewarding for an entire viewing. And the thing like the finger in the nose, like, it looks patently fake, but once you get to that moment in the movie, you don't really have the emotional energy to check yourself out. If you're like me, you have to take it seriously and believe what happens with the fingernail in the nose.
Yeah, even the movie calls that out as a weird thing. He's like, what are you even doing? It's great. Yeah, really. I mean, as far as comedies go, like I just it's really, I found myself laughing a lot throughout it. I mean, definitely some jump scares. It just embraces, like you said, the absurdity of it. And the other thing that I remember, so after South by, when we were talking about it and I was raving about how much I loved it, one of the first things I said is, this movie will likely be at Fantasia. Like, I think we both were pretty conclusive on the fact that this is a movie that belongs at Fantasia.
Yes, absolutely. Belongs here, belongs at Fantastic Fest, things like that. Yeah.
So
one other thing that I want to say is it makes great use of its space. It's a very limited space that the entire film takes place in, but it really makes smart and enjoyable use of every nook and cranny of the house and the portion of the property that we're on.
Yeah, absolutely. So done very well. I don't know, Todd, do you have any thoughts about Deadstream and whether we're selling you on this one?
No, you basically, like, found footage. I'm in. I'm like just in on it. Like, in general, it can be terrible, it can be amazing, and the line is often the blurriest of any genre. So yeah, Deadstream, I can't wait to check out Deadstream when I get the chance.
To be clear, it's not even found footage. It's a live streamer.
Yeah.
Right. But
technicalities.
Kind of like
it's the same idea. Yeah, it's the same cinematic mode.
Yeah.
Yeah. I really
detail is it's live,
really
not historical.
I really dig that genre. And I think if it is, and it sounds like it is a lot like Dashcam, I think that the kind of the live streaming, like Twitch that that genre has moved into actually really helps the genre in a way that was, like, obviously not available when their Blair Witch Project really came out and popularized and mainstreamed that, because they couldn't have a little side thing in the corner being like, hey, by the way, you're gonna die.
I think that's one of the things that I really like about
look behind you.
Yeah, I really think that's one of the things that I've really liked about how found footage, screen life, POV films have evolved is the fact that it's starting to bring pop culture and like modern digital era into it. I think horror movies traditionally had always been isolated things, right? There's these set of characters, they're going through something and it's just them dealing with it. So when you have Dashcam and Deadstream, then like open up the terror to like the real world, and the world gets to like play with that and kind of be a part of that experience, and you get to watch the world being a part of the experience with what we know the internet is like. I wonder if Dashcam and Deadstream are going to set off a new spur of these kind of films. So
I think there's something very inherently funny in a movie when there's just someone in the corner in a text box just going, this is so fake, this looks so fake.
because that's the
it's
culture,
great.
that's internet culture. Like that's, I mean, it's so
Yeah.
awesome to see some like satirization of internet culture happening in a horror film. It's I love it.
I love that you call trolling internet culture. I
It
love
is.
that.
That's what it is. I want to move on to another one that I did not expect to enjoy as much as I did. And it is the animated film Inu-Oh, directed by Masaki Yuasa. Did I pronounce that right, Taylor?
I do not speak Japanese, but you sounded confident, and that is 90% of what matters.
Committing to it. It's such a sprawling odyssey of a film. The only way that I can really describe it is it's just an ever-evolving concert. And it's amazing. I really did not know what to expect with it when we saw it at Vancouver. And it was wonderful to see in theaters. So yeah, just like where this movie starts and the relationships that it develops, and then the constant expansion of this ever growing concert it's just so, it gets really big, it's really grandiose, and but there's really a lot of heart to it as well. So yeah, I just found myself more and more mesmerized by this experience, and I thoroughly enjoyed this one. Taylor, what'd you think?
I did not like it as much as you. We had a long drive around Seattle, from point A to point B of our next screening, debating the virtues and setbacks of this film.
Mm-hmm.
But I think most importantly, this is just barely a gradation below what I said Deadstream was, which is the exact type of film that almost everybody that got excited about Fantasia wants to go to. Like, this is just a really well-made animated film. It has your demon accents if you're a fan of Princess Mononoke. It has a great score. It has exhilarating animation profiles about the concert sequences that you're talking about. And when I think about some of those concert sequences, like when he's on the side of the building and the whale is being projected and he's surfing on it, basically, it's just like, it really is awe-inspiring. There's some moments in it that I found to lull. We had an extensive debate. I won't bring those back up here. I don't know that I remember the film perfectly enough to regurgitate those arguments and make my claim that being an animated Beatles-esque film isn't exactly what I wanted that day. But I think that if you're interested at all, you should definitely check this film out. It's a very impressive feat. From a very storied filmmaker. Previously, he made Night is Short, Walk On Girl.
Nice. Todd, did we sell you on this one? Inu-Oh?
Yeah, I'm pretty much sold on most animated films, just because they feel like a part of my being that isn't filled by anything else. So I check out as many as I can.
Very cool. Let's do one more. And yeah, this is an interesting one to talk about. We talked about it at Sundance, and I actually am interested in revisiting a conversation about this because it's evolved in my head. I think it's grown on me, and
that means it's good.
That means that it's definitely something to pay attention to. And that's the film Resurrection by Andrew Siemens. It stars Rebecca Hall and Tim Roth, and is just this like menacing film that you spend the whole time wondering whether Rebecca Hall's character is crazy or not. Because there is a wild accusation that is made by her that the film makes you wonder whether it's true or not. And I think we talked about this after Sundance, and Taylor, you're thinking a lot.
I think I disagree with the words you just used. I think I understand what you're saying, but I think what you just said is whether you believe her or not. And I think that the film's more portraying whether or not you're believing what you see.
Interesting.
because the film shows you her claim physically.
Mhm.
It definitely shows Rebecca Hall's body delivering on that claim. So I
Yes.
think that you have to trust
Okay,
whether or
fair.
not what you saw instead of what she said, because the film
Fair enough.
itself is making itself what she's saying.
Yes. I think that's probably a good way of putting it. Thank you for clarifying. But I think there are just some really
Todd's like, yeah, that's super clear, guys. Thanks. It would be like just ruining the entire movie if we talked about the nugget that we're talking about, which is in the last 5 minutes essentially.
Yeah.
So
it
but continue,
certainly builds. I think that this movie has big moments. And it's not even like, I mean, there is one really big moment, but I think one of my favorite parts of the film is a monologue. It's like a one take monologue. And so I guess maybe that kind of illustrates kind of the tone and pace of the film, and like how much there is to harness out of just kind of following this character up into where this movie gets to. So I remember after Sundance, I was kind of lukewarm about it, but the more that I thought about it, the more I was like, you know what, I would rewatch that. I actually have warmed up to it a lot. But Taylor, I remember you were all about this movie.
Yes. In the film, Tim Roth plays a psychopath who has a relationship with his stocky / wife or girlfriend, Rebecca Hall, who also is perhaps a psychopath. And the film is presented with the same mundanity as the beginning of The Matrix. And Rebecca Hall very much is living that type of Keanu Reeves boring life. And then you start to see everything devolve, and you don't know whether or not to trust the screen, her, or other characters' existences and the way that they're taking the things that are being interacted with. I think it's one of the most effective psychological films that I've seen this year. And for that reason alone, I would recommend it. Rebecca Hall is also extremely good, and Tim Roth as consistently great as he's always been. Whether or not you like his projects, he's always delivering the goods as a performer. So I would strongly recommend it. And when you begin to sense that you're at the end of the movie, you may want to pause it and go to the bathroom if you can, because you're going to need to pay close attention.
Yeah, it's wild. It's a wild one for sure. So
it will, you can agree on everything almost up until the end of the film, and then everybody kind of has a different read.
Yes. Yeah, in fact, the end of the film was what kind of threw me off. When
I
we
remember particularly us recording a wrap-up video and me asking you a question and you just having like never seen it the stupid way that I saw it, and then all of a sudden you like the movie. So I'm glad my reading can challenge you to love it.
Hold up, not all of a sudden. Okay, it's been a few months. But yes,
all of a sudden in Thomas's world.
Todd, what's your experience with this film?
This was a film that was on my Sundance shortlist that I never got around to in January. And every time someone talks about it, I'm like, yeah, well, that's that like 6-month-old regret there. Creeping back up on me. I know I'll get to it eventually. This is one of those films that is like stays on the watch list. And I'm quite excited. I love the people involved in it, and it's exactly my brand of film. So I'm really
I will
excited.
say one more thing. Andrew Siemens made his directorial debut, I think back in the like early 2010s, like maybe 10 years ago. And this is kind of why I really like seeking out sophomore films from filmmakers that have been like a few years or more away from the game, because it's almost like a re-declaration of their voice. Like maybe they failed, maybe they didn't do what they wanted to do, and then they go back and then they come back with another offering. And this is exactly the type of film that just excites me about a filmmaker. Even though it's his second film, I feel like it's almost his declarative announcement of who he's going to be as a filmmaker.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great read. So Anyway, there's a bunch of other films that we had seen at other festivals, but those are the three that kind of stood out to us as things to have conversations about. And
definitely go see.
Yeah, and definitely go see. Right. So let's jump into films that we are looking forward to seeing for the first time. And Todd, we're going to go ahead and start with you so that you can get more words in.
Sure.
Don't let that voice going
my editor
flat
says
over
I think
there.
my word count
Right.
up. So I listed mine 5-1, but if there's overlap, I'm happy to jump around. And also I'm not committed because I haven't seen any of them. So my number 5 could end up being my number 1 or vice versa. And more likely something will shock me at Fantasia and be like my favorite of the festival.
That's normally what happens.
A few weeks away. So number 5, I chose 5 movies that I hope are all different enough, and a lot of them encapsulate like different genres or things that I'm really excited to see. So for number 5, I chose Princess Dragon, or Dragon Princess in English, not sure. A French film, a French animated film. And Fantasia has a huge slate of animated films and a lot of animated shorts. And so I wanted to give representation to that. So I chose this one by Anthony Roux and Jean-Jacques Denis. And it's like a fantastical story about these 2 little girls, it seems like. And there are 3 baby dragons who hatch into bigger dragons than babies. And I'm excited to see it. Like I was saying earlier, animated stories hold a really like special spot in my heart. And I always find that whether they're good or bad, they're like the easiest to digest and sometimes the easiest for me to connect to. So from what I've heard about this film, it seems like that would really speak to me. So I'm excited for that one. And I wanted to give a little shout out to some of the animated films that are going to be playing at Fantasia.
Very cool. Taylor, did you have any thoughts on this one before you mentioned
it? Yes, I had looked at this. I really like the animation style. It's kind of that Southern European, very like round faces, round lines being used. It just is barely off my list, but I'm very interested in it as well.
Nice. This one wasn't quite on my radar, but I did recognize that there are a bunch of animated selections at Fantasia, and I'm sure it looks like one that's worth checking out. So good pick there. And of course, Taylor, what's my favorite part about this offering here? 70?
That it's cha-cha real smooth.
No.
Dang it!
It's shorter than
it's 80 minutes.
74 minutes.
Oh, 74.
Yeah, 74 minutes.
Yeah, it's a short one.
Barely a feature.
Barely, but it crossed the line. So
it counts.
It counts. All right, Taylor, what's yours?
My, in descending order, 5th most anticipated film of the festival. Let's go with Confession. I think a film that you are also anticipating, Thomas, if I'm not incorrect.
Yep. Yeah, so we can
from
talk about
Yoon
that. Yeah.
Jong-seok. It is a 2022 release. It, I think, began making premieres over in Asian film festivals back in March, from what I was seeing, maybe a little bit after that. It's purported to be like a thriller, crime, investigative, psychological film. We just talked about Resurrection, which was also a psychological film, kind of investigatory. So you can obviously tell that this is a genre I'm into. And as Todd mentioned before we began recording, this is one of the many, many, many films at Fantasia that is from South Korea. And this is just one of the ones that stood out. It particularly seems to have a strong sense of lighting from the stills that I've seen so far.
Yeah, I was actually really just drawn to this film because of the premise. It just sounded like a very interesting investigative mystery premise, and I think mystery is something that drew me to a few of the films that I'm going to mention. But this one is on my list, so I guess we'll just kind of do a joint one here. Ultimately it sounds like a very interesting film. I like the the premise, and it sounds like a good mystery. I don't know, like that's really what is drawing me to this movie. And I think there's a trailer on the website that I'm not watching, because the less I know about this one, the better, I think. And so I'm hoping that this one pays off. I think it won an award at one of the film festivals it was at, so a little bit of credibility there. And yeah, so that is also
it won best film award at a Directors Week film festival, it looks like.
Yeah, so award winning. It's got some creds.
I left this one off my 5 because I knew you were going to talk about it, Thomas. But it is on my list. I saw Yoonjin Kim's name in like the people that appear in the movie, and I was like, I'm in. Like, she's one of my favorite actresses. I was just like, I'm in. Say less.
Nice.
So yeah,
Say less.
I think we'll all end up watching this one.
Most likely.
Yeah. One thing I will say is that if we have any New York residents that are watching the video, you can also watch this film as part of the New York Asian Film Festival, which is running here July to early August as well at the Film at Lincoln Center. Different screening rooms. They'll be having some showtimes for Confession.
Yeah, thanks for throwing that shout out to the New York Asian Film Festival. Cool. All right, Todd, we're gonna jump back to you because that was one of mine, so I'm just kind of slide that one into
all right,
into that. So we're gonna come back around to you. What is your next one?
So my next film is We Might As Well Be Dead by Natalia Sanelnikova. Hope I pronounced that last name right. It is a European drama like / social commentary out of Germany and Romania, and this is a larger genre that has a lot of things playing at the festival. There's also Vesper, which is from, I think, Lithuania, which is another like social commentary kind of drama. And so I wanted to kind of give a spotlight to that. I'm really excited about this one. It's also playing at Berlinale, and it played at Tribeca. It is the first feature film by this filmmaker, and it seems to be about owning property and kind of home ownership and where that leaves us in society if you don't have a home. And so that's something that really speaks to me. I did my undergraduate thesis on home and homelessness and being houseless. And so this just kind of like immediately was like, oh, I'm watching that movie. And so I'm really excited for this one.
Nice. Taylor, did you watch this one at Tribeca?
I did not watch this one at Tribeca. It's one of those films that I always had a light interest in, but was always overshadowed by other films at the festival. So it's just one of those ones that I didn't get to at Tribeca.
Yeah, same here. Like that, it certainly piqued my interest, but just didn't get around to it at Tribeca. So maybe this is a good opportunity to catch it. Cool. Good pick there. Taylor, what's your next one?
Oh boy, we're going right back to me.
Right back to you.
I guess I should have been prepared, huh?
Go ahead and pick another one that's on my list. So that
let's go with HUESERA from Michelle Garza Severa. This is the directorial debut from her. It just won the Nora Ephron Award for the Best New Narrative Director at the Tribeca Film Festival. This is a second psychological horror element thriller film that I have, again, in the vein of Resurrection. There's been some alliteration to it being like the Babadook, and very much about the relationship that a woman has to her body during pregnancy and post-pregnancy, and the psychological ills and strengths that may come with that. And I understand that it's a deeply effective genre film in those veins.
So this is number 1 on my list as well. I mean, it was on my list as well. Really excited for this. It speaks to kind of every genre I really love, and like the horror, thriller, mystery type of film, while also being like very body centered. And I'm really excited about this film, and everything I've heard about it has been really good. I remember reading a review of it after it won at Tribeca, and I think the review is in the New York Times, if I'm not mistaken. I can't remember. It was, a month ago. But yeah, I'm really excited about this film as well, and we'll definitely be checking it out.
Yeah, I've heard good things about this one too, and so it's not on this list, which is why I'm happy that you guys are picking it, so we get to talk about it. But yeah, I've heard great things, and I didn't look too much into it, and I think that was a mistake that I probably shouldn't have made when it played at, was it Tribeca that it was at?
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah.
I don't think it was on the screening platform. I think it was theaters only.
Oh, okay. Maybe that's why I didn't get around to it. So I have an excuse.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I mean, it's very underwatched if you take a look at, people that attended the festival versus how many people have seen it. So.
Cool. Yeah, that's a good one. Let's talk about a light, fun one. I'm going to.
They have those?
They have. This one seems like it. So I want to talk very briefly about Fast and Feel Love. It's a Thailand film. I am not going to try to pronounce the director's name. I usually give it a shot, but it's a Nawapul and then like 15 letters. But essentially, it's about a 30-year-old who has devoted his life to competitive cup stacking, which gets in the way of his relationship, and so his girlfriend ends up breaking up with him, and it's their perspective on, at least from what I could tell, their perspective on how they how adulting, the challenges of adulting when trying to maintain that relationship, but also trying to maintain this competitive cup stacking situation, and it's so parody. Like, it's clear, like the trailer makes it very clear this is a parody film. Don't take it seriously. The name, at least from what the trailer indicates, is kind of a ripoff of Fast and Furious. And so
the font is very much exactly that font.
Yeah, so it knows what it is, and I think that this is one that will be a nice kind of mental break for me in the festival. Like, I really like my mysteries, I like my dramas, but I like to also throw in some of these like comedy parody things, just to kind of break it up a bit. And I think this is going to be one of those that it will be a kind of absurd that embraces it in the right way. At least that's what I'm hoping it does. So I was when I watched the trailer, I was like, this is one that I'm going to watch. I don't know if it's going to be one of my favorites, but it might be enjoyable enough to check out. So did this even pop up on anyone else's radar?
Oh, absolutely. And the first thing that I thought when I looked at it was that there's no way Thomas is going to watch a movie that's 132 minutes. There's just no way. And then the second thing I thought was like, oh, this looks like a really fun way for me to get outside my comfort zone. Great way for me to follow up RRR with a different type of South Asian film that's kind of stylized and enjoyable and crowd pleasing. But then I got realistic and I looked back at the 132-minute runtime and I thought, I'm attending NYAFF as well. There's no way I'm going to do all these Asian films in this single month of July. So maybe I'll get to it at the next film festival it pops up at. I feel like it wouldn't be out of consideration to see it in a theater at VIFF maybe this fall. So yes, I'm super interested in it. It's probably, in my top 15, but I just unrealistic with the amount of films that we are slated to watch this month.
Let me tell you something. This was so intriguing to me. I totally overlooked the runtime. I did not realize it was over 2 hours.
Thomas is like, it is no longer.
He's cemented. He's going to edit this video so that he never said it.
No,
he's going to edit it to be, I'm going to watch Eat, Pray, Love.
Look, the theme for me in this video is commitment, right? You just commit to it. And so I said it. And that's what it is. I am still interested in it. The runtime is not scaring me off, at least in theory. We'll get 30 minutes into it, and then I'll follow up with you at the end, like see at what point, if any, that I get tired of it. Because
I want constant updates on how many days you watch this over.
You know what? And just because of that challenge, I'm gonna find a Saturday, maybe that I can try to watch this whole thing in one sitting, maybe. So
I cannot wait for that Twitter thread.
Yeah. So even with the runtime mention, I'm not quite dropping it off my list yet, but it does seem interesting. So Todd, did the runtime scare you off as well?
No, it didn't. I've spent the last 2 days watching Gone with the Wind, so at this point I'm just like, come at me.
Yeah.
Nothing can
And
hit
that
me.
doesn't even need subtitles, so gosh, you're probably a week
Well,
long.
yeah, that's true. I'm from Georgia, so there's no accent. There's no American accent that can scare me off.
Fair enough. Very cool. Anyway, Fast and Feel Love, that's on my list. Todd, what is next on yours?
Next on mine, also a fun one, hopefully, is Please Baby Please by Amanda Kramer, who she actually has 2 films at this year's film festival, and both of them are being spotlighted in their queer cinema section, which is something I also wanted to make sure I highlight. This is a film that stars Andrea Riseborough and Harry Melling, who people may remember from Queen's Gambit. Also has some other big names like Demi Moore is in it. And this is
just hold on. Harry Melling is Dudley Dursley. Like, that's who people know him as.
Yes.
And
Sure.
he was in the Ballad of Buster Scruggs. It's like, come on,
Yeah.
he's a great performer. You gotta give him his due. Come on.
Well, I'm talking more recently than that. I was like, I don't know. People will be watching miniseries. It's Emmy season. The Queen's Gambit came out years ago. I'm sure it's still nominated for an Emmy this year somehow. Anyway, I don't know how the Emmys work. No one knows how the Emmys work.
If you are popular, you get nominated. If you're good,
Exactly.
you don't.
If you are an HBO show, you get nominated.
Yeah, that's true.
This is an experimental, like, comedy, romance, musical, and it just looks really good. It's also short, 96 minutes. So it seems like it'll be a fun time. And if it isn't, well, then it's short. But yeah, I'm excited for it.
Taylor, you have thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I'm really glad you brought it up. It's on I'm gonna get to it if I have the time. Like, it's one of those ones that just off to the side where it's like, it might be the first film that I watch, even just because I'm very interested in seeing how a film with this cast list shapes up. You didn't mention Carl Glusman, but he's one of my favorite working actors. He's known for working with Gaspar Noé on films like Love. And then Mary Lynn Roxiob is in it, which is just very silly to me. She's got a great sense of comedic timing and can really help a director or a writer control tone in a project, like a very off-kilter tone, which is what it seems like Kramer's going for in this film. So very interested to see it and really glad that you're highlighting it.
I'm not the most inclined to enjoy experimental film.
That is an accurate assessment.
Yeah. This no, I mean, this seems interesting. You guys are talking highly of it, and so I maybe I'll make time for it. But this is also one that will be screening at the North Bend Film Festival. So that's, in fact, I think it's the closing film for North Bend, which is pretty fun for us up here in the Pacific Northwest. If you guys like it enough and can see it in person here at Twin Peaks. Yeah, it's not quite on my radar. I'm gonna wait and hear what your guys' verdict on it before I try to make time for it.
I'm gonna decide right now. It's gonna be like the best movie I've seen all year, just to make Thomas see it.
See, that what's interesting is that the reason I'm interested in this is not because I think it's going to be good. I just think it's going to be absolutely fascinating.
Yeah,
and it's got all these players that I'm really interested in watching how they interact, and what's going to be more of a think piece about the industry and the genre that it's working in. This isn't just narrative fiction for narrative fiction's sake. This is definitely more of a meta commentary on a lot of things.
Yeah, and there might be a headspace I can be in where I get in that mood and I can see it from there. But I think I need to find my favorite film of Fantasia first, and then and then anything else is just gravy, right? Like I can, once I find my favorite, like the one that is just nothing's going to be better than that, and then I can have the mental space for, because that's what I guess that's what I look for at these festivals. I look for that thing that just puts me on a high, right? And so everything that falls short of that, it's not, I don't quite rave as much about, but if I can find that, if I can find it early, then maybe I can get Please Baby Please in and actually be able to enjoy it. So
I'm gonna get on the horn with Apple TV Plus, see if they can't put Cha-Cha on the festival just for you.
Boy, I love it. I yes, and then everything else will be gravy, right? Taylor, what's your next one?
The next film that I would like to highlight is The Girl from the Other Side from co-directors Yutaro Kubo and Satomi Maya. This is a follow-up to a short film of the same name. I don't know if it's inspired by or starting the story afterward, but I think back in 2018 they did a 10-minute short of the same name. This is an animated feature. It is from Japan. It uses a lot of foreground and depth of field animation. There's a lot of verticality from the images that I've seen. And it's also got that like classic, almost like Victorian Mother Goose style, but it also has, it's very infused with the Japanese, like almost Death Note animation. I'm very, very intrigued by the visual aspect of it. And I really have always liked that fairy tale animation style. And it's got dark, monstrous creatures and a little girl who is wearing a white dress, who obviously represents something like innocence. And she's being guided around by a guardian who's decked out in like this spectrally looking black robe. So I'm down. I'm pretty stoked. I can't wait to watch it. Did I mention 70 minutes?
70 minutes. Oh, man, these animated films are clocking in at prime run times.
Yeah, you have me beat even.
Yeah, how did you get shorter than 74? That's impressive.
I just looked for the best looking animated movie at the festival, and I said it's this one, and then they lowered the runtime because I chose it. That's,
okay. Well,
that's how it works.
Can you have them do that for Fast and Feel Love?
I cannot. I didn't pick it, and if I forced it, the rule wouldn't continue to work.
Of course. Todd, is this one of the animated films that popped up on your radar?
It did pop up on my radar, and I'm hoping to get to it. Didn't make my short list, but yeah, it was on my radar.
You just said short.
I'm glad you're highlighting it.
You said short listed 70 minutes. I love it. It is short. Yes. I'm glad you guys are mentioning these animated films, because actually I'm scrolling over my top 5 and realized I did not pick an animated movie.
And
that's your favorite new movie at SIF was probably animated. No,
that's
new movie.
Oh yeah.
Not
Inu-Oh.
not Cha-Cha.
Not
and not the other one that we don't talk about.
Actually,
for legal reasons.
For legal, that's right. We did see that one. Actually, it might have been Marcel, but is that one animated?
Yeah, that's animated.
Oh, yeah.
Technically,
that counts.
That counts. So, anyway, two of my favorite films at SIF.
Marcel is animated. Amazing.
Oh yes, that's right. You did see it. Okay.
Not to get sidetracked, but speaking of animated movies, Marcel the Shell is amazing.
We will hit that after this video is done. I can't wait to talk more about that.
It is very pleasant.
Yes. So let's see. The next movie that I'm going to talk about is a film called Glorious. It's a US film, world premiere from Rebecca McKendry. And essentially, from what I gather from the premise, a drunk guy wanders into a bathroom stall and strikes up a conversation with the person in the other stall. And according to this last sentence, it says, what they tell Wes, the main character, is that he is about to become someone very important, but he can't leave this bathroom, and he's going to have to make a big sacrifice. So remember?
Is this the Ryan Quanten J.K. Simmons?
J.K. Yes, that's it.
Okay. Okay.
Yes, Glorious. This is another one that I just don't want to know a whole lot about. Like, it sounds like a one location film. If you followed my videos, you know I love limited or one location kind of storytelling, limited cast. J.K. Simmons is a draw, and so definitely a selling point for me there. And yeah, there's a mystery there. I want to know, what is the sacrifice that he has to make. It has a big promise to keep here for me, and hopefully it delivers on that. But like I said earlier, mystery, I'm kind of drawn to mysteries, and this is one where that mystery element, it definitely has my interest. So
yeah,
I
left this off my 5 because it was on yours.
Yeah,
but I co-signed this as I'm very excited to see it.
Awesome. Taylor, you seem to react positively when you knew which one it was.
I did not react positively. I reacted as if I knew what you were talking about because I remembered, because I went down a big, like, how is there this great star list for this movie and no one cares? And I did some digging, and I looked at the other films that Rebecca McKendry has made, and I decided that I was not going to watch this film at the film festival unless I hear otherwise quite strongly from you fellows. Every year there's kind of these, like, I don't want to be mean, but I'll say, like, filmmakers I don't respond to with actors that I want to watch in movies that I'll say suck. And this seems like it's gonna be one of those, like a gotcha to watch it type of movies. And I'll let you guys figure out if I should watch it, because I've been scorned enough.
Yeah. we will see. I get kind of the Oak Room feel, like, sense around this. I don't know if you remember the Oak Room with RJ Mitty. It was the first year that we covered Fantasia. It was directed by Cody Callahan, I think was his name, and it was the movie about the bar, the storytelling about a bar in a bar with another story about a bar. It was like the multiple level Inception deep kind of movie about bars. But anyway, it gives me that kind of tonality to it, or that kind of, like, mystery and suspense, and, like, waiting for what is the punch here, like, what are we getting to. And so I really did enjoy the Oak Room a lot, and I think that kind of film is what I like to see at Fantasia. So that's why this one falls in my camp of things I can't wait to see.
I hope it's great, because Ryan has been an underused asset as an actor for a long time since True Blood.
Yeah, interesting. All right, Todd, what's your next one?
Well, my next one's my last one, and
that's right. Yeah,
I think I have now the longest runtime of any selection so far. I've chosen Next SOHEE.
That is my next title. So
all right, knocking them out.
The closing film of the festival. I chose it because I have like at least eight South Korean films on my list to watch, of like just that I want to watch, not that anyone has recommended. So I'm sure more will crop up. So I wanted to, spotlight it. And this just looks like it's a really good and compelling drama about a young woman who works in a call center. It premiered at, I don't know if it premiered, but it played at Cannes.
Yeah, it was the closing night, the Critics Week.
Yeah, and it's the closing film here at Fantasia, which means it'll be August 3rd. So we're still a few weeks out from it. But yeah, this was going to just be my selection to also encompass all of these mini South Korean dramas that I'm really excited for. This one being apparently the crown jewel. And so Taylor, I'll let you.
Yeah, I mean, I would also assert that it is probably the crown jewel based on the feedback that I've seen from critics that were able to attend that closing night at Critics Week. To be a con closing night film and then a Fantasia closing night film kind of, I think, cements how sticky this movie's likely going to be for a large group of people. My basic understanding is that it's about the death of a young woman and a female detective's search to figure out what exactly the actual cause of her death was. It is again, like I was saying with Resurrection, one of those films from a sophomore filmmaker that's like, I think it's been 15 years since Julie Jung made a movie. And I'm super interested to see, how she's adapted and changed her voice and style as a filmmaker, see her reassert herself and, continue making films. Hopefully this is great. And hopefully it's just the first in a long salvo of films that she'll make back. But yeah, this is one of my most anticipated of any festival this year.
Yeah.
It just so happens that it's at Fantasia.
Mm-hmm.
Fascinating, guys. So this one got mixed into all the nexts that's playing at this festival, and so I didn't know the history or like what this film has been doing with festivals. And so I see Next Door, I see Next Exit, Next SOHEE. I'm like, oh, there's a bunch of nexts. Let's see which ones I'll actually get around to. And so it just kind of blended in with that. But you guys,
they're a trilogy.
They're a trilogy.
Don't you know?
Yes. Next
Door.
Cinematic
Universe.
Cinematic universe. You guys are speaking very highly of it. I am now thoroughly excited for it, and I don't know, maybe I'll replace Fast and Feel Love with Next SOHEE.
I was about to say, there's no way you watch both.
Yeah, it's
no way you watch longer.
Both. The extra 3 minutes might kill you.
Might kill
me. No. I talked to Julie, and she said that it's 10 minutes of end credits and that you don't need to stay.
Okay.
No,
great.
but because it's part of the next cinematic universe, you actually have to sit through the end credits to get the post credits.
The post credits,
and you have to go back and you have to watch Nicolas Cage's Next to really set the tone.
Oh my goodness, this is insane, guys. Well, you guys have sold me on Next SOHEE. And on the subject of the next Exit is one that I have been wanting to see, and I think that one's actually at North Bend as well, so I might be able to see it there. And the Next Door,
Fantasia and North Bend.
Yeah, and the Next Door. So maybe I'll just make it a next afternoon. I'll just watch through them all.
Or you'll just say thank you next.
Thank you. Maybe some of them that'd be just an Ariana Grande song. Okay, well, was that your last one, Taylor?
Or
do you have one more?
No, my most anticipated film is different. How many more do you have, sir?
I have 2 more.
Well, then why don't you go, and then I'll go, and then you'll go.
Yeah, that pins out. The next one that I want to talk about is this film called The Artifice Girl. It's USA film, another world premiere from Franklin Rich. And the synopsis just says, when Special Agent Dina Helms and Amos Cullaho, I think, enlist the help of a vigilante tech wizard, Gareth, their lives take a sharp turn into the future of digital technologies once this unusual method of catching child predators comes to light. This one, again, it's a movie that the premise kind of drew me to. There's like this kind of interesting hook to it. Like, what is this interesting, unusual method that they're talking about? So, sci-fi. I am usually drawn to sci-fi stories, but the film is also written, directed by Franklin Rich, and I guess he's also an actor in as well. And I'm very much drawn to films with writer, director, actors. So that should be interesting. And yeah, I just want to see what the critical analysis is that this movie has on the digital age. So yeah, did this one pop up for either of you guys? As something that you're interested in?
It did pop up on my list. I don't know that I'm interested in it, but it does have the recipe of things that I do like, which is, I think it's a writer, director, co-star, maybe
probably
editor
co-star
as well.
Oh yeah.
So there's a bunch of like tonal control being exhibited from the filmmaker. I'm always really intrigued by that because those tend to be really carefully wrought pieces. Based on the images that I saw, I was less aesthetically interested than I had hoped to be. But you'll watch it, you'll let me know if it's any good, and I'll reprioritize it. But I was definitely especially intrigued by the fact that it is an English language film, so I could rest my eyes ever so slightly from reading.
You're right. He is also the editor on the film, so that has me even more interested. 95 minutes. decent runtime. Todd, what did you think about this? Is this registered?
This popped up on my list, and I like slotted it in with parentheses of if Thomas likes it, I will watch. Because I have so many others.
You guys have to be very careful with that, okay? I have liked movies that people are like, Thomas, what are you thinking?
Yeah.
So
it's
so careful with
somewhere
that.
between the poles of like Cha-Cha and Dash Cam, where like as long as it doesn't eclipse one of those poles, and I'm like, yeah, we're fine.
That's a really good analogy. I think that is a very good perspective.
I'm more of a like, I'll see how convincing he is, and then I'll wait for like 3 other people to back him up, and then I'll vet those sources.
You'll letterbox it. Is it less than 3 stars? Like
I'll look up some film analysis on it, but it does. It has Lance Henriksen, right, who played Bishop in Aliens. So that it would be interesting to see him perform at this stage of his life, because he was a very talented performer in the films that I saw.
All right, cool. Taylor, you have one more.
I do have one more. This is my most anticipated film of the festival, and I do not expect it to be my favorite, but how can you attend a Fantasia film with Dario Argento's first film in 10 years and not make it your most anticipated film of the festival? I'm talking about Dark Glasses, his first film since Dracula 3D, which I believe was among the worst critically panned films of 2012. Absolutely eviscerated. Dark Glasses is a giallo follow-up, Argento returning back to his roots. A woman gets in a car accident. Based on what I've read, it sounds like she accidentally murders an entire family except for a 10-year-old boy, and then that 10-year-old boy begins to act as her eyes as she walks around clad in, we'll say, innuendo-inducing clothing and attempting to solve some sort of a giallo-esque mystery wearing extremely large dark sunglasses.
Todd, is this one that you're interested in?
This is one I'm going to watch. This is not one I would say I'm interested in. I have a very like complicated history with Argento, whereas I think I'm a lot more lukewarm on him as a filmmaker, even historically, than a lot of people. And this like gets me eviscerated by Letterboxd community. But yeah, I mean, I'm definitely going to check it out. It's hard not to check it out. And yeah, so maybe it would be on my like most curious list, but I don't know if it's my most anticipated list.
Yeah, I feel like this is one that I would stop on in the lineup. I'd read the synopsis and say, "Oh, interesting," and then I'd move on. I think though it does seem to fill like that space that Fantasia exists for. I think that this is something that is a film that maybe belongs or that will present well at Fantasia.
It's giallo. Yes, yeah. This is what the festival is made for.
So
absurd, pseudo-sexual, crazy film. Yes, absolutely.
That sounds about right. And so, yeah, I don't know if I'm actually going to get around to this one. This, I guess, I'm going to lean on you guys again and figure out if it's one to watch. But yeah, I guess it was at the Berlin International Film Festival, so I don't know. It's a good thing, right?
I am not saying that I think it's going to be great. I'm not even recommending it to people that need to watch a great piece of cinema. I am saying it's my most anticipated film of the festival because it's an old master, whether or not you like the films or not. You know, Argento is considered one of the Italian masters. He's absolutely a master of giallo, whether or not you like the genres. Otherwise, I have a hate-love relationship with the genre. I love to hate it, and there's like 3 movies from the genre that I love, and all of them make me react with more thoughts and emotions than most other films. And that's valuable to me to get me to engage and react to it in that manner. And just a brief aside, Todd, if you have the time, I would strongly recommend that you watch The Bird with the Crystal Plumage, his directorial debut, which, from what I've seen, is one of the best giallos and probably one of his best.
I have not seen that one.
I know, I checked.
Yeah. Well, my letterbox is not
Stalker
super
much,
accurate
huh?
all the time, but
Oh, okay.
I haven't seen it. Yeah, I have not seen that one. Yeah. God, you have tabs on me. I should just start like clicking like random movies and my favorites and just
Oh,
like I've
man.
not watched this.
He has.
Oh
eyes
no,
in the sky.
you just said that you don't like Argento, and so I looked up to see what you'd seen.
Yeah,
I was like,
really,
oh wow, you did not respond to Suspiria the way that I did, but I understand that.
Yeah.
There's things like 2001: A Space Odyssey where I'm like, this is one of the greatest films ever made, and I never want to sit through it again. It's one of the coldest, most despondent things that I've ever done with my life.
I actually don't even think I finished 2001: Space Odyssey. That movie is so.
It's a masterpiece. It is one of the best pieces of cinemas ever made, but it just makes me so. I feel like I'm artificial intelligence. I feel like I'm becoming an android as I watch it. It's so cool.
Yeah, that actually sounds about right. Yeah, interesting. Okay, well, I have one more, and I'm pretty sure both of you responded as this one to this one as one that you guys are interested in, and that movie is My Small Land. It's about a 17-year-old girl whose father's refugee status has been turned down, and so it puts an extra weight on her to take care of the family as they, navigate the fallout of that. Of that decision. I read the synopsis and immediately thought of two films that I saw at Tribeca, which was The Courtroom and Aisha. And so both of those films were movies that I responded positively. The Courtroom being about an immigrant who accidentally voted and then had to deal with the court system about the illegality of voting as a non-citizen, and then Aisha being about a Nigerian refugee in Ireland who has to navigate the bureaucracy of keeping her refugee status or being sent back to a dangerous situation in Nigeria. So these films about kind of precarious residents in the country, I don't know, I've responded to those very positively with these other two films, and I think that this will be a different perspective on kind of a similar challenge or conundrum when it comes to a family having to wade through the legal challenges of being able to live in a country, and this of course coming from the perspective of a 17-year-old. And so even though all these films really have kind of that common theme of like the insecurity of living of a living situation, they all have different perspectives, and I'm interested in seeing the approach that this one has with it being from this perspective of a 17-year-old. So yeah, you guys, I think I mentioned this to both of you, and both of you said that you are interested in watching this one.
Yeah,
is that correct, Taylor?
Yeah, I didn't know if Todd wanted to take the lead there.
Oh,
but yeah, so this is an interesting film to me for a multitude of reasons, one of which is when you think of Japanese cinema, the last thing you think of is the story of an immigrant to Japan. You might think Lost in Translation, which is like someone staying for a while on a vacation or a work trip, but you don't ever think about people that are trying to immigrate to Japan because it's one of the most notoriously difficult countries to immigrate to. And so I think that that's just a fascinating angle for the film to begin with, but then there's the other elements, like her being of Kurdish and Turkish descent, that it's a directorial debut. There's a lot of different things that are very interesting to me from a filmmaking and storytelling perspective. So this is like my number 6, my number 7. It's just barely off my list.
Yeah, thank you for mentioning it being a feature directorial debut. That was also another thing that appealed to me. Todd, you get the final word on this.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at everything y'all said, I echo that sentiment of why I found it interesting. Hirokazu Koreeda was also a producer, and I really love his work, and so that was just also like kind of like an endorsement of it in itself. I'm the immigrant stories hit really close to home for obvious reasons. And so this one is like on my list, but it's also one that I'm like, man, this is going to be like a tough hang for me. And so I'm going to put myself through it and probably let it wash over me. And then, based on the sound of it, like cry myself to sleep. But that's something I'm really excited for. And yeah, it's definitely on my list.
You hear that, Kleenex? Todd is willing to be sponsored.
Yeah,
That's
Todd
right.
is willing- yes.
That's right.
This is a longer one, a little less than 2 hours. So I have a lot of minutes to be putting on film and film watching during this festival. There's going to be.
I think you forgot about runtimes when you made your list. That's what I'm pretty confident about.
Yeah.
No, I did this really weird thing and based it off of how the premise sounded.
You've never done that in your life. Don't you start lying now.
But it's Fantasia. I make special exceptions for Fantasia. I think that we've mentioned a lot of really good films, and as we know, we do this to help illuminate interests of each other, and kind of like what Todd said earlier, it's you just never know which one will end up being your favorite. You never know which one will end up standing out, and sometimes it's something that you thought was going to be good and turned out to be great, and sometimes it's one that wasn't even on your radar. That's just kind of how this goes, and I'm always excited to talk about these films, and I'm looking forward to trying to do a wrap-up video on
Like
Fantasia. Yeah, while also doing North Bend, I guess, because we go from Fantasia is from July 14th to August 3rd, and then North Bend starts August 4th. So
that sounds really cute. What's it like only doing one film festival instead of two for the month of July?
I think
does that feel nice? You guys feel
it does feel really nice. Yes, I am going to try. I'm going to get decent, hopefully, amounts of sleep compared to you.
Yeah, it helps me actually, because my only goal for Fantasia was to watch more films than Taylor Baker. My partner's like, why is
From
this
that
written on our
festival,
wall?
right?
And I'm like, no, it has to be written on the wall to always remind me, watch more films than Taylor Baker.
See if you can do what Thomas and Beaumont cannot.
You know what? I have embraced.
I have 2 film festivals, so like I'm naturally predisposed to have.
So you're measuring based on the film festival.
Oh yeah, it's just Fantasia.
Okay.
Anything else doesn't count.
That's very selective. I really respect the way that you built the game.
Yeah.
You know what? I have embraced the fact that I will not watch more movies than Baker. I think that there's something mentally unstable with you to watch so many movies in one festival.
That is a correct way to say deeply unwell with you.
Deeply unwell with you. Yes. I don't know how you do it. I don't know if you have that little jewel or charm or whatever that Hermione had in The Prisoner of Azkaban.
The Time Turner? You don't remember the name, The Time Turner? Oh, that's right. You don't read books.
No,
I just are going off the movie.
You know what? I did read that one way back when, like way in my history. I won't do it. I've tried. I got close. No, I didn't. But I got a lot on my account. But this will be a festival that I'm looking forward to, just like trying to enjoy as many as I can. And you know what? I am going to challenge myself to get some of these longer films into my lineup of things that I watch. So.
Yeah, I cannot wait to have you guys tell me that I was right about my assessments for each film that you watch. I'm really looking forward to that. I'm
going to very intentionally not validate your opinions. In fact, I'm going to tell you that which one was the Glorious was the best film of the festival, so that you can go watch it.
That's preposterous. Face Off is playing this festival. We all know that it will be the best film screened at the festival.
I know. It's you were like, what about movies that are playing at the festival that you've seen? And I'm like, well, like we can't do like 30 minutes on Face Off, right? Like that doesn't count. But like go watch Face Off. If you haven't seen it and you're in Montreal, go see Face Off.
Right. That is funny. Well, we'll bring this video to a close and we'll talk about these films again at the end of the festival, and other things that we've seen as well and liked. So with that, we'll go ahead and close out. Taylor, where can people find your content from Fantasia and New York Film Festival? New York Asian Film Festival.
As always, everything is at drinkingthemovies.com. You just click the little tab to go wherever you want to go. If you want to read reviews, click the reviews thing. If you want to find our social stuff, hit the about. And if you want to just read all the festival stuff, hit the festival button.
I love the pointing. I'm going to orient the videos and make sure that pointing is correct, Todd.
Yeah,
Thank you.
sure
I'm
that works.
stoked.
Todd, where can people find you online?
You can find me. This is ForReel. I should have reviews of Polaris, which is the opening festival, coming later this week, and then Fantasia in all of its entirety for the next 3 weeks. This is ForReel.
That's right. That's where I go. So you can find our stuff on thisisforreal.com. ForReel, of course, spelled FORREEL. You can also find us on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook. The links are at thisisforreal.com. And you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at beingtsj. And that's how it's done. So
That's how it's done.
Flawless.
You can notably not find him on Letterboxd, even though you can find him on Letterboxd. He just doesn't use it properly.
And it
He
infuriates.
backlogs like every 3 months.
I do. That's exactly it. It infuriates Taylor and makes me happy.
Yes,
Yes.
that is true.
Very cool. Well, gents, thank you so much for joining me on this curtain raiser for Fantasia 2022. We will just be watching films for the next 3 weeks, and we'll talk about them again later. But until then, everyone out there watching, thank you so much for tuning in. And until next time, keep it real.